Oh, Buffalo Brother George, how are you today?
Hello, Buffalo Brother John. How you doing?
Well, not so good.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Oh, I tell you, I got my Bills shirt on. I'm representing, but it's tough. I went to get a bagel today, A guy at the bagel store says, "Surprised you wear that shirt after yesterday."
Uh, we talked about last week doing a state of the Bills,
Yep.
and we didn't do it because we knew what was coming. We were hearing the rumors. We were hearing about the injuries, and we're hearing excuses by players and coaches why they didn't win, why they barely won against the Giants, and it just kind of knew this game was coming.
Well, we were talking about doing it, and then we had the big Miami game coming up, and we were like, "We'll know," because 4 games were in, but Miami was up ahead. It was the 5th game of the season, and we were like, "Well, we'll know really where they stand. Did they catch up? If they beat Miami, they'll be in first place. If not, they'll be really looking at second place for most of the season here, maybe." So then they had all those injuries,
and they squeaked by the Giants. Even with the last second play, which should have probably been an interference call on Teron Johnson in the end zone, but they didn't call it, and the clock ran out, and the Bills hung on to beat the Giants.
Yeah, well, I wasn't too but as far as that, I don't know. I've seen that call, sure, but I've also seen them not call it, especially the end zone.
But they hung on to beat the Giants.
They did win a game.
They hung on
Mm-hmm.
to beat the Giants. And then we were going to face maybe the worst team in the league, or certainly one of the worst teams in the league.
Well,
the New England Patriots.
If the Giants aren't the worst team, I guess up until yesterday, the New England might have claimed that spot.
So we didn't do the state of the Bills. We just quietly waited and held our breath to see if this was going to be a good get-right game for the Bills.
Yeah.
Well, it was not.
True.
So now we're ready to talk about the state of the Bills.
Okay. All right. What do you want to say? Where do you think they are?
Well, at this point today, on the offense, I really don't think they know what's going on. I think that the problem is in the coaching staff. I think there's a huge problem with scheming guys open, having respect, or even actually knowing what some of your players are capable of doing, like a Dawson Knox. He had a huge game on Sunday against New England, and Ken Dorsey seemed like he was shocked. And we just watched his interview with the press, and he talks about, yeah, man, it's good to see Josh Allen's gaining more confidence in him. They went out and drafted him number 1.
You're talking about Dalton Kincaid.
Dalton Kincaid. Why did I say Knox? I'm sorry. Dalton Kincaid. They went out and drafted him as their first-round draft pick, brought him in as a weapon for Josh Allen, and Josh Allen just now in week 7 is getting more confident. Did he do something bad? No. If you throw to him, he catches the ball. So they haven't thrown to him. Now they decided we got nobody else to throw to. We better throw it to him, and he went 8 for 8 yesterday. I really question that the coaching staff knows their players well enough to give direction to their quarterback or make substantial game plans. How to scheme guys up to get open. What players to use. I think there's a huge problem in the offensive coaching staff.
Okay.
Any reaction from you? Now, you may agree, you may not. I totally understand.
I think it was a mistake. I think Ken Dorsey was a mistake to hire last year. So I'm not off of that. I'm still there. But I'm wondering, you remember when they went and we got, who did they get at the trade deadline last year, and he came in, he helped special teams, but what the hell's his name? And now he's
Nyheim Hines?
Nyheim Hines. And we thought, and a lot of people in the media thought, Hines would be an injection of some speed and whatnot to the offense. And it turns out they just used him on special teams.
They used it on special teams to return punts.
And I was kind of like, I didn't listen to them. They said they got this guy for special teams, and they used him on special teams. And I should have listened to them because
They told you the truth.
But I projected that they needed speed, they needed some, and I thought this would be, when they were asked about can he contribute more, is he going to contribute more, we got the excuse he's learning the offense stuff, big offense, a lot of stuff to learn, is learning his offense. And I thought again this year, Kincaid comes in, I thought he would be a bigger factor. Yeah. And now I am starting to wonder, and it may sound screwy, but this offense is it's an extension of what Daboll was running. Is it possible that they've gotten away from whatever the core of this offense is and added so much to it? It actually does need to be simplified.
Yeah.
If a veteran of Mike Hines can't come in and pick up enough to at least be useful, maybe it is too complicated. If Dalton Kincaid, I'm very critical and will continue to be critical of Bean, but when he gives you a player that is talented, if you can't make use of him, that might be on you.
That's right.
If it's because the offense is too complicated for a new person to be able to pick it up. Now, he has a disadvantage if he's not a veteran. He's come out of college, so he didn't run this kind of offense. He wasn't in this kind of offense. He doesn't have to make these kind of decisions. He didn't have to help block, on pass plays. Pass protection, they often use their tight ends to make contact with the defensive end before they go out. He didn't have to do that. So there's more to it, and I get that. But if the offense is that complicated, maybe it's too complicated.
If Dalton Kincaid was a guy in college who didn't really block, but he was used as an extended wide receiver, why in God's name would you draft him and think he was going to block for you? Why would you say, let's not use him the way he's shown he's successful. Let's use him some other way we made up. Why would you draft him? Go draft the kind of player that you want.
So I have a question. So my first thought is, if it's not the offense is literally too complicated, do we know how? Like, the offense was designed by someone else,
Mm-hmm.
and it's designed for wide receivers. Like, and it's effectively, if they use them just in tight end routes, they're trying to use them for other routes as well, which I get it. Is it possible that, like, this offense is designed for wide receivers? It's not really designed for tight ends.
Well, let me ask you a question now.
Is
I
it
know what you're
possible that our creative minds can't figure out how to utilize them?
At the end of the Daboll
Within
era
this
here in Buffalo,
book?
there was conflict between Daboll and McDermott.
Yeah.
Daboll wasn't running the ball. McDermott wanted to run the ball. And why would you hire a guy that's going to bring back the exact same offense that you just were fighting with your previous offensive coordinator about?
Listen, so just to give some people some history, we know that for a couple of years, Daboll was interviewing for head coaching positions. While he was interviewing, and as he was interviewing for the Giant job, it was leaked that through his agent, he had gotten word to the Giants executive team that even if they didn't choose him as a coach, he would like to be considered the offensive coordinator spot.
Mm-hmm.
That he was ready to leave Buffalo. Now, exactly, now we're gonna guess as to what the conflict was between him, why he was ready to leave Buffalo, and what the conflict was between him and McDermott. It doesn't seem like it'd be that much of a stretch to figure that out, but, we're gonna kind of get, but he wanted out, he was ready to go.
Yes.
So with that said, the stuff they told us was by continuing this playbook, no one on the offense is learning a new system. No one's learning new vernacular. I mean, it's going to be a continuation. But you have to believe that during the interview, McDermott is going to want to hear some things about philosophy, and if he believes that there should be more emphasis on running, or what do they call it, complementary play calling.
Yes.
If he believes that that isn't something that the team could improve upon, one would think that he would hire somebody in who's going to work on that. That's something that they also believe in, and that's they're going to try and help him with that. So I have to believe that the direction the offense has taken is the direction McDermott wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And we have seen, I won't say emphasis, but the combination of Cook and Harris and Murray, it did seem like a more effective running back room
Yes.
than what we've had.
Yes, I agree.
Last year, Singletary was kind of the main guy, and then they also had Cook in there a little bit, but Singletary got a number of carries. If you look at straight statistics, he did get a bunch of carries, but this did seem to be a more effective and more, when it's working well in the 3 games that offense was clicking a little bit, we did see some effective complementary football. But it hasn't worked well in the other 3 games. I mean, the other 3 games are basically fails.
Let's say it. Last year was a fail on the Bills' part, and that they did go 13-3. Probably should have went 13-4, but they called off the
Cincinnati
Bengal game.
Yeah.
And then, of course, they got smothered by the Bengals in the playoffs. And so I could see Dorsey after his first year telling the coach and telling the general manager, well, I need some more depth in my running back room. I need another receiver, which they got him in Dalton Kincaid.
Presumably, that's what he's for.
We need to strengthen the offensive line. They went out and got a guy from Dallas, and
Connor.
they went and drafted
Discovered
maybe one of the best
Torrance.
projected linemen. And so I think at that point, the McDermott and Bean combination said, hey, I think we're ready now on the offensive side of the ball. Now we got to fix the defense. And so what did they do? They got rid of Leslie Frazier. I'm not against that. Leslie Frazier's defense was tired. It wasn't, even though they were up there in stats, they couldn't get the job done in big games. So it was time for a change.
And that's, you're right. I'm not disagreeing with you. I want to give a few stats. Like when George says big games, one of the things that we've kind of been noticing is that the last 2 years, the defense have had really good stats. Maybe at the end of the year, they've been like a top 5, statistically a top 5 defense. But where we felt they've fallen short was specifically they've beat the heck out of poor offenses.
Mm-hmm.
And the defense has dominated poor offenses. And then they got up, when they got up against good offenses that were better offenses in the league, the kind of offenses you tend to see in playoffs, they could really struggle. Like it was becoming like a track meet, and the offense had to score to keep up. Now we had an offense that could score, and they were scoring, so I gotcha. But still, I was particularly obsessed. So when you say big games, I think we really mean playing better offenses.
And what happened last year at the end of the season, they had a wild card game. They hosted the Dolphins, who almost won that game. I still, to this day, don't know how Buffalo squeaked that one out.
With what was he, a second or third string quarterback?
With the third string quarterback for the Dolphins, they took the Bills to town on that defense. And when they moved on and got to the Bengals, they actually took the Bills defense apart. They just destroyed. So what did Bean do, or McDermott do this year? Time to get rid of the defensive coordinator. I'm going to be the defensive coordinator. He didn't go hire anybody. He's got no problems on offense. He's got Dorsey, who's got all the things he needs now. So I don't have to be worrying about that. Yes, I'm the head coach, and yes, I'll have input in a philosophical way.
Right.
But I let my coaches do what they want to do. And so I'm going to take over the defense now because I'm a defensive coordinator. And what have they done? They really, their offensive line was playing, or defensive line was playing exceptionally well.
Well, yeah, oh yeah. We had 3 or 4 games.
Ed Oliver was playing well.
Daquan
Jones was playing like this was an all-star year. They brought in Leonard Floyd. They were getting pressure on the quarterback. All of a sudden, Epinesa in a contract year found out how to rush the quarterback.
Yourself?
Milano
Okay.
at linebacker, who always plays lights out,
Right.
continued to do so. And
Bernard came through.
Bernard was doing fantastic at the linebacker position. Trey White was out there, and they had things rolling. And then the injuries came in. And when the injuries came in, it came into Milano, to Trey White, Daquan Jones. Now Ed Oliver missed a game. It just continues to go on down the line. And what happened was we found out that when the defense has to rely on second or third stringers, they're not good enough. But the defense, or the offense that we thought we had built, it was exposed.
Well, they thought they had built.
They thought they had built.
They thought they had
It was exposed. When there was no defense to get them better
extra possessions,
field position, and the defense and the offense now had to start going 75 yards. They couldn't do it. The offense
against better teams.
Against better teams. Yes, they raked the Raiders. Yes, they raked Washington, but also our defense was playing well at that time. When the defense did not play well against the Giants, against the this week.
We had the Jaguars,
New England,
and then New England.
The Jaguars, we should have controlled. Our defense was, when they weren't there, then it exposed our offense. They aren't good enough to carry this team. So the offense was never good enough.
So
and now it's exposed.
Yeah.
And now with the offense that can't score and a defense that can't stop anybody, where do you go from here? And where do you start to fix this thing?
Well, one thing that we talked about, and it's interesting, we were talking Daquan Jones not being in the game.
Mm-hmm.
I know Milano is all world, but boy, that has really made a difference. And without Oliver and Hinty, that was horrible.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, when we go up against teams that have good defensive tackles, the Giants defense is not good.
No.
But they got 2 good defensive tackles. 2. The Jets have good defensive tackles. And the Patriots, they drafted Barmo last year, and they got a couple good defensive tackles. Interesting how our offense falls apart. Our offensive line really struggles when the interior line is pressured. And I know that there's been a number of the media that we watch have been rather complimentary of Spencer Brown, but the guy is a rusty gate. If you don't give him help on almost every passing play, he is.
We've seen plays where Shakir is helping block with Spencer Brown.
Yeah.
He's hoping on a short wide receiver to help him block.
Sherfield, Shakir, and then of course the tight ends, right?
Yeah.
Knox and Dalton Kincaid. Now Kincaid had 8 receptions this week. We just looked at every single one. On 7 of 8, he had no blocking responsibilities. None. He ran out, he ran a route.
And he got open and he caught the ball.
But we know that he's had to do, him and Knox have both had to do a great deal of, like, they're taking on the defensive end and then releasing and going out, giving Spencer Brown an opportunity to get up and get set and not have to just jump back and to get up, get set, and now he faces a defensive end after the momentum's already been taken. So, and after he's been able to get set. So, I don't know if, I know he wasn't in the game last week because he was injured, but I am suspecting that after making contact, not chipping, but making contact and taking on a defensive end, the number of routes he's able to run are really limited. A lot of and Josh is just not going to him. If it's third down and he's out there at the line of scrimmage, Josh is trying to throw for a first down. So he may be open, but he's looking past him because he's trying to get the ball downfield.
Yeah.
All right. So look, I think there's from beginning of last year, I said there's a hole in the wide receiver room. I don't think they addressed it. The hole is a lack of a number 2 wide receiver. We had high hopes because it's a contract year that Gabe Davis was going to be past his injury.
They made him a captain.
And he was going to be a captain.
He's a captain of a good ship lollipop.
And he was going to have that great year. But even if he did, then they wouldn't have a number 3 receiver. I mean, they don't have it. And Kincaid may very well develop and may develop a great rapport ultimately with Josh. But I can't get past the part that you had a wide receiver who likes to throw downfield and he likes to throw to his wide receivers. Mm-hmm. All the yards that John Brown had and Beasley had and Diggs had when they were playing together, and then Diggs and Beasley were playing together, he likes to throw to his wide receivers. Why are you drafting why are you not giving him? There should never be a time when they want to go 5 receivers, like nobody in the backfield, that they can't have 5 wide receivers out. Like they've got to put in Gillum, who's a backup, tight end, fullback. They got to use tight ends up there just to get 5 receivers out there. I understand that with a guy like Cook, maybe you make him one of them. I get that. But they should never run out of wide receivers with a quarterback who is really good at throwing to wide receivers. And that's what he likes to do. I have a question. So we watched the interview with McDermott. Then we watched, it is recorded. We watched the interview with Ted Dorsey. And we couldn't watch all of it before George was like, let's do a video because this is crazy. But we didn't do a video last week. Do you remember what McDermott said in the locker room after the victory last week and your response to it?
Yeah, after the victory of the Giants, they showed McDermott in the locker room. And I'm not exact quoting him. I'm paraphrasing because I can't remember the exact words, but you can find it on the internet.
YouTube, yeah.
He congratulated his team for playing well and for being able to come from behind. Finishing the game. And he was truly complimentary and to his players. And it wasn't a coach that was upset or concerned. He seemed genuinely happy for his players that they got the victory.
Yeah.
And it should have been a case where he threw the press out of the locker room, closed the door, and read them the riot act. These are grown men they're talking to, not babies. These are grown men.
So something that I don't think that I've said on YouTube, but they seem to be like, there's no commitment to being excellent. They seem to be willing to accept mediocrity. And then something will happen. Josh Allen will make a play and we'll win.
Somebody will get it done.
Or somebody will get an interception and we'll win. And we'll celebrate that great play. And we'll move on to the next game because we're just good enough. We're good enough.
We're going to watch the film. We're going to learn from this. If I hear that one more time, Mr. McDermott, I'm going to throw up. You can't be saying that every week, because if you did watch the tape and you learned something, why didn't you do it? You didn't do anything different than any other week. Your team looks not only just as bad, they look worse than ever before. I'm not picking so much on the defense. They got the injuries. I understand that. But you could have got a defensive coordinator. Now you're saddled with that responsibility while you have a struggling offense and an offensive coordinator that can't scheme. Now you got that on your shoulders too.
All right, so what do we do moving forward?
Before we do that, okay. I got to say, one thing about our channel, we give you our opinion. We tell you the way we think it is. We don't worry about having to be nice to the Buffalo Bills staff or the Buffalo Bill management or ask soft questions and ignore the gobbledygook, the answers that guys like McDermott and Dorsey give. We can tell you what we think the way it is, and to hell with them.
Yeah, our jobs do not depend on getting access to the team or the players or coaches and possibly.
I dare them to come on our show and be men and come on our show and then really answer a question. I'll be good to you. I'll ask you a question,
but they'll be tough.
Answer it.
There'll be tough questions. Like the gobbledygook. They ask a question and inevitably they just kind of repeat the question and the answer.
They asked Dorsey about struggling this week, and what did he say? We did a lot of good things out there. What the heck are you talking about? You did a lot of good things out there. You didn't do enough good things out there.
I would like to ask him straight up, have you talked to Bean about replacing Spencer Brown? Do you recognize how bad this guy is? I mean, is that a question you don't want to answer?
Why can you only send out 2 wide receivers? Everybody else has to stay in block against 4 guys on the offensive line.
Gotcha. I'm with you. So I look, we were a little worried about going into the Jacksonville game because Jacksonville has a tendency to bring 5. And that is a blitz. 5 is a blitz. I get that. But they bring it so often that it's difficult to help because you can't help everyone. Everyone kind of has to. You got Spencer Brown, you got to help him. That's fine. You find some help. But the other 4 guys are on their own. And often enough, somebody breaks down.
You know what would be the first thing I would do? You're asking, what do you do?
Yeah, I am asking.
The first thing I would do would be fire Von Miller.
Get the money back.
Get the money back. Get what you can, and tell him, listen, we had to let him go. He doesn't play enough for his contract, and we think we can use that money to improve our team. Good luck to you, Von Miller, and thank you for being here. Now get out. Your bag's on the bus.
Yeah, I understand.
And that'd be the first thing I did, and not to be mean to Von Miller.
No, he's a nice guy.
But to set a precedent with the team. This is serious business. This is not a game. This is a game. This is business. This is the business of the game.
Yeah. All right.
And you've
so
got
first thing. All right. So what else? What do you got to make? Like my first thing. I don't remember. Well, you give me another thing because
my first thing is
your
I
first
would have
thing
to
was
start
really got me
with straightening out the coaching staff You can't go without a defensive coordinator. You need a top down. You need that triangle. You need a head coach, offensive coordinator, a defensive coordinator. You got to get that straightened out, and then they get their coaches under them. Until you get your coaches straight, how are you going to coach a team?
No, you're right.
How is the head coach going to operate overseeing both sides of the ball when his head is stuck in the defensive coordinator bag because he let his defensive coordinator go?
Right.
So you got to start with that.
Yeah, look,
Do you fire McDermott and start fresh? Maybe so, but you got to get that.
there are lots of head
Straight.
coaches that are their own play callers and stuff, and we get that, but that doesn't mean they don't have an offensive coordinator, right? They still do. But the head coach takes on a lot of that responsibility, but not all of it, and they have help there, so significant help doing the role of offensive coordinator. You remember when Eli Manning was a quarterback of the Giants, and he was getting a little bit older,
Mm-hmm.
and they drafted Daniel Jones.
Mm-hmm.
So the following year, Eli starts, and as the years unfolding, they're not having a great season.
Yeah, and then
And it's time to bring in
Mhm.
the young guy, right? Bring in Daniel Jones. Well, I remember watching the game. I'm actually watching that game. Daniel's he's throwing a ball here. They're creating easy passes for him. They're creating, and the announcer, the color analyst goes, Eli Manning is sitting on the sideline going, why didn't you give me those plays? Like, I'm over here, you got me throwing these deep outs to whatever, and you got me, give me because I could have moved this team down the field too if all I had to do was that. Maybe, I know I was talking about two, and then the other thing that I've heard in the past, a head coach or defensive coordinator gets changed, and they change the scheme. Now, I have heard of defensive schemes being changed and the defense really struggling to learn the new scheme. And who was our head coach the month before McDermott? Right. That actually was one of the that was one of the things that he brought in. It was there was a lot of, it's an aggressive defense, but there are a lot of rules to it, and he was teaching them. And our defense had been really a different system, and the front seven were kind of struggling with it. And that was something that I heard there was, wouldn't it be easier for you go trying to learn our way? And he was like, no, this is actually a better, in his opinion, it's a better defense. But it's not uncommon for a defensive coordinator or a head coach to bring in a new defense, and the guys are like, reporters are asking him, what's with the big jump? Why are we so much better this year? And the players are going, oh, it's easier. It's easier. And it's not, it won't be easier in a couple of years after everything is put on, but at first it's easier. They simplified it, they're teaching it. And I think we've just, you have a core, and then you add something to it to make it a little more diverse. And then as you start working, and it's working well, you start having a problem, you add some more stuff to continue to be diverse, and then you add some more stuff over here and then defenses figure out what you're doing, and then you have to, I don't know what the core is to this offense.
I think they got themselves so buried in the weeds.
I think they got to go back to it.
Yeah.
And if it's time to go back to that, and if they can't, and I don't mean to be overly critical of Dorsey, but he has never had to do that. That may be beyond him. Like he became an offensive coordinator, taking over a system that was already there. He didn't implement one.
What was the catchphrase that Dermott brought with him? We're going to follow the process.
Follow the process.
And here it is, 5 years later, or whatever it is.
7.
What is the process? Can you tell me what the process is? I still never heard a definition of what the process is.
Not answering questions in press conferences.
Follow the process. Okay, what's the process?
Yeah.
Well, we're going to tackle, and we're gonna read the film, and we're gonna learn from this. I mean, come on. 7 years if we're gonna watch the film and learn from this. I think we learned. I think I learned something. It's time to move on.
Yeah, I've had some challenges, like, I know I've said that I thought that this defense works really well against teams that are one-dimensional. If you are a run-heavy offense, they will stop the run. If you are a pass-heavy offense, they can work with that. But good teams tend to be balanced and can challenge you in more than one way, and that's what things tend to break down. And they went kind of all in with the defense with these smaller linebackers. You know, Bernard and Milano they're smaller, fast linebackers. The first guy off the bench would be Dorian Williams, smallish linebacker. The biggest guy they got is Dotson. And he's not. I think actually the biggest guy they have, AJ Klein, is on the team.
AJ Klein.
He is actually on the team. Yeah. But he has no knees.
They need him. They need somebody to shovel snow.
Yeah, that's right.
In the stadium.
So they got him. But I think it's time to end that, and I think it's time to end that experiment.
We had the pipeline, the Carolina Panther pipeline.
Oh,
We were getting players and coaches from a bad team.
remember Calvin Benjamin?
Calvin Benjamin. Yeah.
Listen, this crud coach, the best single thing that they've done since he's been a bad coach, since he's been the head coach, from a wide receiver perspective, is Big Diggs. They made the trade for Diggs. That was fantastic. The second best thing they did is they signed Beasley and Smoke as free agents 1 year. Great. And you thought that he had an understanding of it, but it turns out that the year before, when they signed Calvin Benjamin and had Zay Jones, I mean, he actually did think that was a good wide receiver core.
Mhm.
He thought that was good. And we only know that because now we got Diggs, and that's it.
If he's been the coach for 7 years, I'm not sure how many drafts that is. Is that 6 drafts? If he's gone through 6 drafts, show me the 6 players on this team that the Bills drafted that if they had to flush it all out, those 6 players would still be on the team.
This is Josh Allen's 6th year.
So there's one.
And he's been here, and McDermott was here 2 years before Josh Allen was drafted, not 1, 2. So they drafted Milano.
Drafted Milano. That's 2.
And Trey White.
3.
Now, I'm going to give him Oliver because Oliver has developed. It took a long time, but I'll give him Oliver.
Okay. I wouldn't, but that's okay. I'll give you that.
No, I understand. I understand.
I'm not giving him Epinesa, and he's playing good finally in a contract year
I wouldn't.
against poor teams.
That's what I was going to say. He does well against poor offensive linemen, so I wouldn't give him.
If they gave up a draft pick to get Diggs, you want to count that?
No, I'm fine. Diggs was a player that they acquired. Oh, you said draft pick specifically. I don't care. You want to give them credit for Diggs. The problem is they're going to run out. They're going to run out of players before you run out of fingers.
Yeah.
Yeah, real quick, because we're almost done.
Well, that's 5, and that's what I'm saying. Show me 6 at least, and I'm not saying that's enough, but that's 1 a year in your draft that you could say these are good players on my team.
Like, I'm not giving them credit, and neither are you, for Dane Jackson, because from the moment he became a starter, they needed to replace him. They needed somebody better. He was always a backup.
Dane Jackson,
God bless him. God bless him.
Boogie Basham,
Cody
Spencer
Ford,
Brown,
Cody Ford, Spencer Brown.
Tommy
Oh,
Doyle.
I don't know. I got to be honest with you. We might have a 6th. McDermott might have been in charge when he drafted Dan Dawkins. I don't remember if it was the year before.
You see his fat belly now? You see how overweight and out of shape he is?
He doesn't look.
Do you see how Mitch Morse is getting pushed around right into Josh Allen's lap from center?
Well, so do you have any other players that you want to put on this list? Because
No.
I think we're done.
I think we're done.
So we didn't get 10 players in 7 years.
I
that we would be
I
willing
was
to
going
say-
for 6. Maybe if you want to stretch it, you can get there. But that's
Well, one thing is for
out of
sure,
22 starters.
you don't have very many guys that are going to go on the wall, the Buffalo Bill Wall of Fame. Milano might be, he might deserve to be on there. And
Josh Allen might get there. We don't
Allen
know.
probably is going to get there. They didn't draft Diggs. If you want it, but so they're really out of players Maybe Cook will develop, now we're into the maybes, but Cook and Rousseau, I don't think they're future Wall of Fame players, but we have hope.
You know, and our general manager, Bean, this was his first GM position.
Yeah.
McDermott, his first head coaching position.
Right.
Dorsey, his first OC position. And you wonder, what is wrong with the team? No experience.
Yeah, I think the personnel department has let the team down. It's almost as if we didn't have the picks.
Now, I could see getting young.
Depth of young talent.
To be honest with you, I can see getting young head coaches.
Nick Vay?
Before I see getting young offensive coordinators and defensive coordinators. I want a guy with experience that we can count on.
Yeah, no,
in those positions, because they're really doing the scheming.
Mhm.
The head coach is overseeing and putting in his input. But you hire an OC and a DC to run your team. Those are your colonels. You might be the general, but those are your colonels in charge of your guys that are training them. And we don't have a DC
At all.
We've got an inexperienced, failing OC.
All right.
Okay, that's enough of that.
Moving forward, so for me, I was simplify the offense and the defense, especially on the defense where you're using four guys who are all backups. You making it easier for them would only help them. On the offense, nobody knows now exactly what the status of I was going to say Elway's Allen's shoulder is, but he certainly missed some throws. Everything came out hard and fast, and he was missing some throws.
Except when he's throwing to Dawson Knox, all of a sudden, then he threw accurately and they were catchable. But to anybody else, it was his shoulder. He was out of position, or he was trying hard, or all the excuses for all the other receivers. But Dawson Knox, somehow miraculously, his balls came to him okay.
Just to be clear, no one associated with the Buffalo Bills organization ever used that excuse. That is
all
just George.
No, that's all. I've heard it on YouTube with the other people
You're
like ourselves.
Talking about people who, yeah, like us, that have nothing to do with the Bills. I gotcha. You're right. I understand. Okay.
Yeah.
Just to be clear, Allen stood up there and said, "No, there's no problem with my shoulder. It was me."
Allen stood up there and said, "There's no problem with my shoulder." So if you believe him, then you got to say, then why did you stink?
Why was
What
every
went wrong?
pass like that? Yeah. Why was every pass a bullet?
Why was everything a cannon and 4 yards off its target?
All right. Anything else you want to say as to what the next step is?
Well, I think-
after you, well, if you fired everybody, so I guess your next step is.
What my deal is, this is gonna take a long time. This is not an overnight fix. This is gonna mean changes in the off season, changes to scheming, the thought process of the whole talent team and how it's built. It's time to go through the rebuild. But for this season, you got what you got.
Do you
going-
make any changes this season with the coaching staff?
Yeah, I would change the offensive coordinator.
Do you give them another game, or are you doing it? Well, you got 4 days until the next game. You're not doing
You
it.
can't do it now, yeah.
You can't do it this week. The actual break isn't until like December 3rd.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if you wait that long either. So is it possible? Well, I don't know if it's possible. So would you, if you were McDermott, would you be, is Ken Dorsey coaching for his job this Thursday?
Well, I don't think he is for McDermott,
But for you?
but I think
Are you ready to
McDermott
make
is
that
coaching for his life.
Okay.
I think they're
For
going
the
to take
season.
the position. They're going to take the decision process away from McDermott and make the change without him. And McDermott's going to be a lame duck until the end of the season.
Oh, you think that the organization, so okay. Now, the only thing I would throw at you there is, so far, the Pegulas have not been an ownership group that met us. And if they're not gonna meddle, I don't know who makes that change. Like, like the other executives all seem to be, they're not football operation executives. They seem to be finance guys.
Look, if they lose to Kansas City, that's their 4th loss. If they lose to Philadelphia, that's their 5th loss. If they lose to Cincinnati, that's their 6th loss. One more, they can lose to the Jets again. Certainly they got to play Miami. You got to play New England again. They definitely could end up with 7 or 8 losses. And I think it's when they lose another game to within the division is when it's going to be.
Okay, and you're thinking that they're gonna fire Ken Dorsey out from under McDermott
And leave him as a lame duck till the end of the year.
Yeah, okay, I don't think that's gonna happen.
I know.
Well, I would like to, the one thing that I would like is if we had a head coach that would make that change.
Mhm.
But I don't think he
I
will.
don't think he will.
I don't think it's
And
a-
I think that's going to be his downfall.
Well, that could be, that could be.
No problem. You
But-
don't want to do it. You don't have to. We'll do it for you. And then you may as well tell your wife to start packing.
Yeah, one thing we didn't discuss, last year, was Terry Pagula had that medical issue.
Right.
And we don't know exactly, like, she went to the stadium every day, she had an office there, I think they both did. Jared and, but is it possible the family is really kind of just remotely looking at the team this year because they're focused on the medical issues? And that's okay, I have no problem with that, that's fine. But they may not be in a position to pull the switch because they may not feel like they're as much aware of what's going on in the nuts and bolts as they might have been had they not had the medical stuff. They were there every day.
Look, when the Pagulas bought this team, they had no dreams that the Bills were going to be considered like Super Bowl type team. We had a horrible team when they bought it. And so I don't think that they're looking at this team as like, oh, we're going to build a champion. I think they're in it for the money.
Oh, okay, yeah, that
And
could be.
it's part of the income, and you just handle it. And we're collecting our money.
I'm
And
sure
that's how I feel about it.
all the NFL teams, they make money. They all do. All right. Thank
All
you
right.
very much for watching. I don't think we solved anything. The state of the
No.
Bills right now is not good.
It's not good.
That's the outlook for the future. I mean, we're talking about they need to change coaches and then build the roster. So around Allen and Diggs and maybe Milano. I don't know what they got. So thank you very much, everyone. Go Bills.
Yeah.
Have a good week. We probably will not do another video before Thursday. So enjoy the game Thursday, everyone.
All right. Goodbye.
Thank you. Go Bills.